it's good to have levels of comfort, to have these specific comfort zones. For example, your home. Your home is your zen, safe space. That is your comfort zone. Your car. You feel comfortable driving down the road in your car by yourself with your music blasting, the music of your choice. It's not Taylor Swift that your 6-year-old has requested. And we have these zones of comfort, and those are good. But sometimes we stay in situations in life for too long. We overstay our welcome, and we're afraid to get out of that comfort zone. We're afraid to step forward out the door. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. I'm your host, Mary Katherine. And for those of you that are new to the show, welcome. I am a multi-location owner. I have been with the Fit Body Bootcamp brand since 2017 and have served as the podcast host for the last 2 years. So welcome to the show if you are new. Excited for you to be listening in. And today we're going to talk about taking risks on yourself, taking massive risk, betting on yourself. And I'm a mom. I have 2 little ones. I have a 3-year-old and an almost 6-year-old. I have a kindergartner this year. I can't even believe it. And sometimes I feel that we make decisions for other people that are big and exciting and great. And we know it's going to provide them a new opportunity or something better. But yet we don't do that enough on ourselves as moms. And if you're listening and you're not a mom, I'm sure you can relate to this too. But, you know, there's so many times that I've looked back in my life and thought like, gosh, I should have taken that risk, or I should have taken that job, or I should have done this. And we can't live in that should have, could have, would have mindset. However, I do believe that we need to be taking more bets on ourselves. We need to be allowing ourselves to get out of our comfort zone. You know, we talk about that a lot at Fit Body Bootcamp. In the gym, outside of the gym, you have these zones where you feel so comfortable and it's hard to get out of them. Just the other day, we moved recently, and I'm going to share a little bit about that here in a second. And that's kind of what this episode is going to be based around, why we moved, what made us make this big decision. And but before we get into that, I'll share a little story. So we're in a new location. We just started attending a new church, and they had a mom's group that they recently started. And they announced at church, like, you know, if you want to join the mom's group, we still have spots available. And so my husband nudged me and he's like, you should do it. You need to meet new people. You need to make some mom friends. And so I was like, okay, I'll go. It'll be a little bit of time for myself, away from the kids, which is good. I need that. And so I showed up, my first mom's gathering. It's called Gather Moms. And I sat in the parking lot for a few minutes, checking my lip gloss, checking my hair. It was like I was going on a first date or something. I was so nervous. I was nervous because this is not my comfort zone. Being in small groups with new people is not my comfort zone. What's funny is my comfort zone is more podcasting, being on a big stage, leading a boot camp session full of strangers. I'm okay in that zone. And some of you listening to this might think, what? Like, I would never be able to lead a session at a boot camp, or I would never be able to speak on a stage or host a podcast. I would much rather be in a small group. But for some reason, like just with my personality, small talk and getting deep like that, it intimidates me. And that's not my comfort zone. And so I got out of my comfort zone this week, attended this mom's group, and it was scary. It really was scary. It made me feel intimidated. I was nervous. And I know that many of you listening to this, you have felt like that in so many different situations in life, whether it's you're starting a new job or you moved like me and you're meeting your new neighbors for the first time and you're wondering, will they welcome me to the neighborhood? Or you're starting a gym, you're starting a new workout program for the first time and you're sitting in the parking lot just like I was, hesitant to go in. You're just like, should I do this? Can I do this? Maybe I should just go back home. We've all been there. And on the other side of your comfort zone is growth, is true growth. And we all need that. And studies have shown that it's good to have levels of comfort, to have these specific comfort zones. For example, your home. Your home is your zen, safe space. That is your comfort zone. Your car. You feel comfortable driving down the road in your car by yourself with your music blasting, the music of your choice. It's not Taylor Swift that your 6-year-old has requested. And we have these zones of comfort, and those are good. But sometimes we stay in situations in life for too long. We overstay our welcome, and we're afraid to get out of that comfort zone. We're afraid to step forward out the door. We're afraid to take risks on ourselves. We're afraid to bet on ourselves. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I want you to take some big bets on yourself. You know, the end of the year, it's approaching. Believe it or not, we're almost in Q4. We're in Q4 of 2024. Something rhyme there. And let's not wait until January 1 to make some changes, to set some new goals, to have these dreams and visions for your life and for yourself. And it could be very small. You know, going to the gym or eating healthy could be something that you really want to do so deeply inside you. You want to do it so bad, but it feels uncomfortable. So you haven't taken that bet on yourself. We're going to talk about that today. So, little story time for you. And if you're listening to this like mid-September when this episode is being released, you'll be the first to hear this great story. And I'm going to get a little vulnerable with you guys today, because I took a huge bet on myself this summer. Within the last few months, my family and I moved to a new state. We were in Roanoke, Virginia, and now we are in Bluffton, South Carolina, which is a cute, quaint little beach town right outside of Hilton Head Island. Many of you are familiar with Hilton Head, not so much Bluffton, but we're right beside it. And I guess I got to start with why we made this big move and why we bet on ourselves as a family. Several months ago, I traveled to Chino Hills, California to work, to do a few Fit Body Boot Camp podcast episodes and to attend a mastermind. And while I was there, I had a day to myself. I had a day where I had nothing going on. It was a Saturday, and I flew out to the next location that I needed to go to for work on Sunday. So I had a whole day to just reflect, be with myself in my thoughts. And I was walking around this cute little neighborhood in California. And I called my husband and I said, I don't want to move to California. I really don't. However, if other people can live in these beautiful places, why can't we? I have lived in my hometown my whole life. And while I love my hometown and I appreciate all the people in it, and I have really appreciated the support I have gotten for the growth of my Fit Body Bootcamp locations in my hometown, I felt like I had kind of hit a wall, personal growth. I didn't see any opportunities for me there anymore. I sold 2 of my locations within the last 2 years, one to my rock star facility leader, and then another to an amazing Fit Body client that I had. And so those locations were no longer my responsibility. And I was kind of searching for more. And so as I'm walking around this neighborhood and talking to my husband, I'm like, what about moving? Should we move somewhere? You know, Sophia's starting kindergarten this year. Stone's old enough to start preschool. Now would be the perfect time. They haven't established, long-term friendships yet. And they're little. They're more resilient when they're little. They're more adaptable to change. Should we move now? And usually my husband's like, yeah, okay. But this time he was like, maybe. Let's talk about it. So we just started going down the list of all of the places that we loved. And I have been vacationing in Hilton Head in South Carolina for many, many years. And I won't get too much into that, but we both loved that area. And so we started doing deep, deep research on neighborhoods, communities, schools, because all of these things needed to line up in order for us to make this move. And so I found a realtor on Instagram, connected with her right away, and said, hey, we're considering moving to South Carolina right outside of Hilton Head. I actually am the master franchisor for the Fit Body Bootcamp brand in South Carolina. I would love to expand our footprint, open up more locations down there. And hey, maybe I'll even open up a location on my own that I can work in again, because I kind of missed that, and made a great connection with this realtor. And so when I got home from this work trip, we packed our bags and our entire family came down to South Carolina and we started house hunting. And we were very transparent with our 6-year-old. Our 3-year-old, he doesn't really understand, but we said, listen, we might move. Mommy and daddy are considering relocating to a new place. And this is exciting, but nothing is definite yet. And we're not sure, but this is what we're doing here this week. And she understood. We went to some open houses and it was really funny. Like, she would walk in and she'd like point out the things that she liked and the things that she didn't like. And of course, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, is this the right thing to do? Should we be telling her that we're about to make this move, but we're not 100% sure? And here she's involved in this process. And I did have that feeling of, oof, I don't know if this is going to work out, and maybe we shouldn't say anything at all. But we had to do what we had to do in order to explore and know if this was going to be the right decision for us. And so one day we went into this house, the house that I'm sitting in now, and we just fell in love. We fell in love with the neighborhood and the possibilities of the community that we could join. And it just all seemed to make sense. And that same week, we were able to tour a school that had a spot for our kiddos. And I have a realtor back in Virginia who was she was excited to list our home there. And it all just started working out. But this was a risk. This was a huge risk that we were about to take. And there were many days where I would say, what are we doing? Like, we have great schools here. My family's here. We have a beautiful home. I have friends here. Why would I want to leave that? And the answer was, I felt stuck. I felt like I didn't have an opportunity to do what I wanted to do, to pursue my dream of opening another Fit Body location, be more involved in the community within the Fit Body brand in South Carolina, the state I was trying to grow. It was hard to do that from afar. I really wasn't making much progress from afar. And I knew deep down, in order to make this what I wanted it to be, I was going to have to make a change. I was going to have to take a risk on myself and for my family. I was going to have to bet on myself. And so there were many days where I would cry. I would have this feeling of not regret because it hadn't happened yet, but this feeling of, I wonder if I will regret it. And many of you listening to this, I am sure you have had this feeling, whether it's leaving a job you're unhappy in, but it was comfortable and maybe it paid the bills and you left and then you thought, oh no, what did I just do? Or maybe it's a relationship. You were comfortable in the relationship, but you didn't see any growth happening within the relationship. You weren't truly happy. You weren't feeling fulfilled and you left, but then you thought, what did I just do? That was easy. That was what I knew. That was what I was comfortable with. That was my routine, my safe space. And I don't have that anymore. All of us go through this, and it's going to show up in so many different areas of your life. But we decided to take this risk. And the first week that we were here, it was great. Week 2, which was the second week of school, I was making a few phone calls home. I was having a few tough conversations with my husband that went along the lines of, what did we do? Sophia has no friends here. She's struggling in school. Is she ever going to find the connection with these girls in school that she did at her old school? I don't know anyone. I don't know who lives beside me. Why hasn't our neighbor came out and said hello? Everyone on our block is older than us. Where are the young people? What did we do? And these conversations that you have inside your head, a lot of us have them inside our head and we don't actually say it out loud. These are hard. But when we do that, what we're doing is we're trying to drag ourselves in the past. And we can't live in the past. We're only going forward from here. Whether you made a decision that you're not sure you're happy with or not, there's no going back. And so if you take a risk on yourself, you have to be okay with the outcome from the beginning. You have to know that the outcome might not be the outcome that you thought you were going to have. And I'm here to tell you that on the other side of taking massive risks is growth, as I mentioned earlier, but it's also a new identity. And you hear people say all the time, like, I'm I'm redefining my identity. I'm rediscovering myself. I've hit a midlife crisis, or I'm in the second half of my life. I'm going to reinvent myself. You can do that at any time. Moms, like when you're a first-time mom, you do that when you're a first-time mom. I think a lot of women, you do that when your kids enter school and they're no longer home with you all day, whether you work or not. It's different when your kids are in school all day. When your kids go off to college and you're empty nesters, when you retire, there's so many different stages of life in which you reinvent yourself, but you can also reinvent yourself just randomly whenever you want. And that's kind of what I did this summer. And it hasn't been a walk in the park. There have been hours. I'm not kidding you. Like, there have been some great hours of the day, and then there's been some tough hours of the day. Just the other day, my daughter, she's struggling to get to school on time, and she got fully dressed, was very agitated by her school uniform collar. So then she was fully naked 5 minutes later, right before we needed to leave for school. She got dressed again. When I picked her up that afternoon, she said, "Mommy, look what I wore all day." And I turned around and she had her gymnastics leotard on and a pair of shorts under her uniform all day. And she said to me, "It was really difficult when I had to use the bathroom today because I had to take all of my clothes off." And I just thought to myself, this teacher probably already doesn't like me because I allowed her to come to school in this. Well, I didn't even know that she had that on. So again, there are some great hours, and there are some hours where I am like, what is happening right now? And many moms listening to this, you can relate. But it's not going to be easy. Change is not easy. But I think that 4 things come out of change and making a bet on yourself, taking that risk. Number 1 is you learn and you develop new skills. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, I went to a mom's group, a small gathering, and I'm not used to being in situations like that. I primarily work from home right now, and I'm not used to meeting new people and having small talk like that. However, I believe that I'm going to develop that small talk skill. I'm going to get better at it. I know I will, because I'm going to work at it, and I've committed to this 6-week group. So I'm going to do it, whether it feels comfortable or not, whether I want to go or I want to stay in my car for the 2 hours and just scroll Instagram. I'm going to do it, because when you take a bet on yourself, you learn and you develop the new skills necessary in order to adapt. And it's not going to come easy. It's not going to just happen overnight. It's going to take some time. When you take that risk, you have to be committed. You have to be all in, right? The second thing that I believe that happens is you become more adaptable. And this is very true of the situation that I'm in right now. You guys, I don't have a mailbox. How funny is that? The day we moved in, like we closed and then we moved in the next day, the movers came. I'm looking for my mailbox and I noticed that no one has a mailbox. And so I quickly text my realtor and I'm like, "Hey girl, we have no mailbox. Where's my mailbox?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, no one in your, little part of the neighborhood has a mailbox. You have to go to I don't actually know what it's called. It's like a little mail center in the middle of our neighborhood, and you have a key to your mailbox." And so I go and I show up at the mailbox the next day, and this lady pulls up and I was like, "Hey, how do I know what my mailbox is? I'm looking for my address, but I don't see it on here." And she just started laughing at me, and she was like, "Oh, your address is not written on your mailbox. You have a letter and then you have a number." And so again, texting my realtor like, "Hey, what's my letter? What's my number? I need to check my mail." But the moral of the story is you become more adaptable in new situations. And we don't get our mail at our front door at the end of the driveway like I'm used to. I have to go to the mail center. There's just little things about my new environment in which I'm going to have to adapt and overcome, and it's going to be okay. Many of you have a hard time adapting, all right? Here's an example. You go to the gym. You go to Fit Body Boot Camp. You start going to the 7 a.m. session. And you realize in order to make the 7 a.m. session, you got to go to bed by 10. You have to wake up by 6:15. It takes 15 minutes to brush your teeth, get your clothes on, brush your hair, get your water bottle, your pre-workout, your coffee in. And then you take 15 minutes to drive to the gym, and bam, you're there. 7 o'clock, your boot camp session starts. It's going to take you a little while to adapt to that new schedule. However, if you stick to it, which I think studies show like 28 to 30 days is when a habit starts to form and a routine starts to feel more normal and easy. Once you stick to that, you're going to adapt and it's just going to be a part of your identity. So if you're listening to this and you're having a hard time committing to your workout schedule, just know it takes time. And you have to be open to this change. You have to have an open mindset, because if you have a very closed mindset in which you're kind of grumpy about these new changes that you have to make, it's not going to be as easy for you to adapt. It's not going to happen as quickly. All right, the third thing that I believe happens when you take a big risk on yourself is you increase creativity. And oh my goodness, is this true? So about 10 years ago, when my husband and I bought our first home, I think it was about 10 years ago. Yeah. I used to love crafting and decorating and refurbishing furniture. And now that I'm in a new environment, those juices are flowing again. I am starting to get excited about little home projects and things. And I do believe I'm being a little more creative now that I've stepped out of my comfort zone into a new environment. And I think that happens for a lot of people when you're in a new situation. You discover a piece of yourself that you didn't know existed. And this happens when you take risks, when you try new things, when you're in a new environment, when you just say yes, this happens. So if you're feeling stuck right now and you're feeling kind of bored and blah and wondering what's next, usually when you take that risk and you get out of that comfort zone, you feel more creative and more optimistic, I would say. And the last thing that I think that truly happens when we get outside of this zone is you gain confidence. You gain confidence by stepping out of your comfort zone and refusing to let fear push you back into what felt comfortable. As I mentioned, there is no going back. This life that I have now created for myself, this is the life that I have to live. I sold my house in Virginia. I bought a new house in South Carolina. My kids go to a new school. Everything is different. I can't go to the doctor's office anymore that I went to back at home. I can't meet one of my girlfriends that I've known for 10 years for coffee. I can't drive to my parents' house that's 10 minutes away. And that's kind of hard. But I'm starting to gain this confidence and this new level of independence in which I never would have found if I wouldn't have taken this risk and if I wouldn't have stepped outside of my comfort zone. So those are the 4 things that I truly believe happen when you make a bet on yourself. And just as a little recap, number 1 is you learn and you develop new skills that are necessary in this new environment you're in. Number 2, you become more adaptable. You adapt to the change. It's not going to just happen overnight, but you will adapt. Number 3, creativity will increase. You are going to feel more inspired. Once you make that step, once you make the jump, you take that leap of faith, you're going to feel those creative juices flowing. And number 4, you gain confidence. The more risks you take, the more confident you become. Confidence happens in the repetitions. So the more times you can get out of that zone and you could feel a little bit uncomfortable for a little while and then realize I'm okay. I'm not going to drown. I'm all right. I'm treading water right now, but slowly I'm going to learn how to swim. You're going to gain that confidence that you need to live your best life in this new version of yourself, your new identity. So there you have it. All right, you guys, that's all I have for you today. As always, make sure you check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Share this episode with all of your friends. And if you're listening to this today and you are stuck in a season, we go through seasons, it's sometimes more frequent than the actual seasons itself. We might have 2 weeks that feel like a season, and then the next 2 weeks feel like a totally different season. No matter what, just know you can get through this. You have the power within you, but only you can make this change. And when you take risks, when you bet on yourself, you will grow and you will succeed. Have a great day. Thanks so much for listening. you.